Ladies, today I want to talk to you and I want to discuss with you specifically about how feminism, or what I'll call from here on out Feminism because of YouTube, how feminism has tricked you into giving men everything they could possibly want from you without having to fully be with you. Now, obviously, you guys know feminism came around in the 60s when women were trying to fight for certain rights that would allow them to have some of the same things that men were able to get and be treated fairly. I do not feel as though that is actually a bad part of the movement. I think that on some levels, women were being held down in some respects and that they did deserve to fight for things that they needed in order to feel like they could be on somewhat of an even playing field. But unfortunately, whereas it originally started as a movement to try to get those things, there were other things that seeped into the movement that I feel as though have not been beneficial to women, but have actually been very beneficial to men in terms of the things that for years men would have to fight tooth and nail to get women to do or to be in certain ways. Women will just now do. The women themselves don't get any actual long-term benefit from it, but the men have. And so this is actually more or less a video saying, thank you, feminism, for allowing us to get the things out of women that we always wanted. I'm going to go over the 5 things specifically that feminism has taught women that has inadvertently tricked them into giving men things that they wanted that in the long term isn't actually making them happy. By the way, my name is HarryWilmington. I typically give advice to guys about dating and relationships, but this particular show, Harry Dating Conversations, is about talking about all things as it relates to relationships. And to that end, we're gonna go ahead and get into the show. So, here are the 5 ways that feminism has tricked you, young woman, into giving men everything that they deserve. I'm gonna also go over some articles that I found about the subject in the process, right? So the first one, the first big lie, the first big thing that feminism has made women believe is that it is okay for you to be as promiscuous as men are. Now, for many, many thousands of years, women were made to think that they had to be virgins when they were married, they had to be as chaste as possible and have minimal partners because they would be heavily judged. But to be honest with you, part of, that judgment, it kept women from having too many partners, which means they were protected from things like STDs. They were protected from getting pregnant by guys that they didn't know who the daddy necessarily was. Like, there were actually decent reasons to not be so promiscuous. But then, of course, birth control came along where it kind of curtailed. You could decide whether or not you wanted to get pregnant or not. And so as a result of that, a lot of women just started to be like, well, you know what? I'm going to just go out there and give myself to whomever. And the way that feminism made women think that this was okay is that they convinced women that by not being able to go out there and sexually express themselves, it was the result of the patriarchy trying to police women's bodies and tell them what they could or couldn't do. And at a point where, they made men and the patriarchy the enemy and said that the patriarchy is why you're being held back and judged for being too loose, women said, oh no, I'm gonna fight against that. I'm gonna show them who's boss, and I'm gonna go out there and sleep with all the men. And you all thought that you were winning by doing this strategy. You were gonna show those evil men of the patriarchy that they can't control you by giving them your body and doing exactly what they wanted you to do. Congratulations. Now, I found an article that talks about the interesting thing of, like, for a woman that buys into feminism, they often are the ones that are a lot looser with their bodies overall. So I'll read this quick article, and it says, feminism is understood to be not only about equality for women as a group, but also about personal choices. And see, they're making it the idea that, oh, it's your personal choice to decide to go out there and be loose, therefore it's totally okay. In a gender unequal world. In this paper, I examined whether feminism identity was associated with solo and partnered hookup behavior. Using an original representative survey of adult Canadian women, I employed ordinal logistic and logistic regression analyses to assess the relationship between feminist identity and hookup behavior. I found that those who called themselves feminist reported having more recently touched themselves than non-feminist women. In addition, I found that in partnered hookup encounters, feminists were more likely to participate in butt play, as well as engage in more kissing, cuddling, and massage than non-effeminist. I also found that effeminist women were more likely to receive downtown pleasure from the mouth of their partner than non-effeminist. These findings contribute to our understanding of effeminist identity as tied to women's personal lives, extending this association to the realm of hookup activity. In this case, the political is not only personal, it is intimate as well. Claiming an effeminist identity is aligned with an approach to hooking up that includes a wider array of intimate and hookup behaviors that center women's hookup and emotional needs in partnered encounters. And by the way, this also includes things like being more open to open relationships as well as polygamy, i.e. having multiple partners. So because there are many women that have bought into this thing where it's like, hey, you can be as promiscuous as a guy, and hey, you shouldn't be judged for it because it's unfair that guys don't get judged and women do. And so therefore, you need to go out there and prove to everybody else that you can do what a guy does. And so you played right to the hands of men. Like you were trying to fight the patriarchy by saying, I'm not gonna let men control me. I'm gonna go out there and sleep with whoever I want and whenever I want and with however many partners I want. And it's tricked you into giving guys hookups. Like, do you see the evil genius that was at play that the feminists put out there when they started to make you guys think this is a good idea? Like you're thinking you have body autonomy, but you're actually playing into what it is men want. For years, men had to actually do things and fight tooth and nail to show you that they were actually even worthy of you deciding to hook up with them. But now, because you all have an open door policy, it's like, well, even if he is a bum, I want to have that experience, so I'm going to do it. You're letting the guys win. So again, thank you, feminism, for that one. Next, the second way that feminism has tricked women into giving men the things that they want is that it has convinced you to try to become as powerful as a man in the earnings department, which means you're vying now for the same jobs that powerful men once had. You're getting into those high offices. You're getting a higher level of educated degrees and stuff like that. And it's not that these things are even bad, right? Like it's good to be able to have those things. The problem is, for one, let's be honest, it now takes away from you having to need a man in your life. And that's not the worst thing except for the fact that women typically in terms of their overall sense of self, traditionally has been associated with their ability to lock down a guy. And you could say, hey, we're in 2024 and things have changed, blah, 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 blah. Why is it today then that so many women around, I'm 42, women around my age range are the highest in depression and the highest in taking various pills and going to therapy and trying to drown themselves in alcohol? If that were a thing that were actually beneficial, women wouldn't be doing all these things to cope with the fact that in spite of having all this money, they're still alone. Why? Because money hasn't ever really been a thing that when women get it, attracts men, all right? But to the point, there are men out there that are actually willing to use you for your money, which means that the men you're coming across that want to date you are thinking, oh, she's got a lot of money, which means I ain't got to do nothing. I can lay up in her house. I can drive her car, and you know what? She's gonna let me because I'm gonna tell her, hey, you know what? You can be a powerful woman. You can make more money than me. I'm not gonna be offended by that, and they're gonna lay up all under you, okay? On top of that, let's say you're making all this money, right? Well, even if you're making, say, $100,000 a year, right? You're gonna now, on average, try to look for a guy that's earning the same as you or higher. So a lot of you women won't date those blue collar guys that are making $50,000, $60,000 a year because he's not up to standard. He's not up to the level. Okay, that's fine. But what that means is you have now put yourself in the bracket of trying to go after men that are earning the same as you, 100,000, six figures a year, or making more, making millions, hundreds of millions, etc. And you know what? Those guys are now also winning because you're thinking, I'm better than these low-life guys over here, these top-tier guys, I'm gonna try to go after them and date them. And what you don't recognize is that to them, they're making more than you. You are gonna be in the same stir pot as the lowly fry cook at McDonald's, to the librarian, to the six-figure earner. If he's making seven figures or more, then your little $200,000 a year ain't gonna matter. But what that's gonna make you think is that if he decides to hook up with you, that he must realize that you have the same value as him. He does not. He feels as though he has more value than you, but he's willing to let you live in the delusion that you feel you have the same amount of worth as him in order to get a hookup. So in effect, we still win because the feminism has allowed women to want to earn more and then also put down guys that aren't earning more and then go after these top tier guys and be in the same circles. And those guys are banging everybody, including you. So he gets the hookup, but he doesn't have to actually stay with you long term, and he makes more money than you, so you can't persuade him with the money, but your money making is making you think that that's what's going to keep him around. Feminism has helped men win again, so thank you. On to the third way that feminism has tricked women. They have made you believe that your body, your choice, that being nude is a powerful thing. I remember back in my younger days when I was a teenager coming up, and I remember this was in the 90s, right? So we didn't have access to things like internet adult sites or things like Instagram or TikTok or things where people are just publishing their bodies all over the place, right? So as a young man, if I wanted to see a woman unclothed, I had to go through a stealth process of either A, trying to get a guy that's older than me to get a magazine so I could possibly look at it, B, stealing my mom's Victoria's Secret so I could look at them because they were very sexy in that catalog, or C, hoping that I looked old enough to go into a video store to rent an adult movie that had some woman showing her boobs in it without having to pass my ID off. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But the point is, I had to do extra work because as a whole, most of the women around me, in my teenage years, my 20s, weren't trying to post their bodies out in the world for the world to see like that. It just wasn't happening, right? Because there was a level of a woman needs to be modest. Even if she was a woman that was behind closed doors, she was loose and she was giving up to everybody. That was behind closed doors. But in public, there was the public facade of she's decently clothed, maybe showing a little bit of cleavage, but not so much that you get the idea that she was a loose person, And so it just made it harder to see women's bodies in that way, unless it was again, either a movie or a magazine or something like that. And so what's happened with feminism is they came in and said, hey, you know what? Here's how they got you. Here's how they got you women. They said, for years, men have been sexualizing your body. Even when you're not nude, they're still looking at your body in a way that's they're trying to ogle you and trying to make you into a sexual thing. And you know what? It's time to take that power back. Yes, you're going to take back your own power by going out there and showing your body and saying, this is my body and don't you dare sexualize it. And you know what the guys did? They shut up and said, okay, I'm just going to stand over here and silently ogle her and not say anything and let her feel like she's being empowered. Let me read this article that I found about this whole thing, right? So it's a long article. I'm only going to read the last two paragraphs. So this is the woman that talked about this, right? So she said, we as women have the right to use our bodies in a way that is deemed empowering by each individual and not be viewed as a sex object. Living in a society which tells you that showing your intimate body parts is male attention seeking and that your worth is inherently less by being more open to self-defining through nudity makes this choice difficult and sometimes a lonely journey. Personally, I find everyday empowerment through my body, specifically my nude body. Enjoying the little moments each day, such as cooking, cleaning, reading, or even writing this piece while nude, has allowed me to see my body as it actually is. Just a body. It gets me through the day, through sickness, through fitness, through life. My body can do wonderful things that don't include sex or being sexy, but let's face it, it does that well too. There is nothing shameful or offensive about naked bodies. Society will keep telling you that it is so. It is, so you will keep buying clothes to cover it and products to change it. This article does not take into account skin color, sexual orientation, or body size. As a thin white woman, I know I'm perceived as an acceptable body more than others, and my body was weaponized differently by society. So why is it important to show women's non-sexualized nudity? Continuously seeing our bodies as sex objects or tools for capitalism keeps us comparing our bodies to each other and buying all the wares to make it better. If we're concerned about how we appear in society, we're too busy to fight the patriarchy and our station in society. We know the exhibition of nude bodies isn't the true issue. It's how society can keep their control on us, on women. My nipples aren't the problem. Antiquated views on naked bodies and society wanting to continue selling our bodies are the problem. The threat that female self-defined nudity presents is determined by society, but can be changed so that people understand that the offense to morality is misogyny, not nudity. So basically she's saying, I should be able to show my body how I want to, and how dare you for sexualizing it. Now, what's interesting is these are the same women that when they get into their 30s and 40s, they'll be like, but guys don't find me attractive anymore, and oh my God, I'm so sexy. Why don't guys look at me? And then they'll be the ones that you see these starlets that are 40, 45, 50 years old that are suddenly they were all modest when they were in their 20s, and now they're at the 40s and 50s. They're in magazines, they're on Instagram trying to show off all their top parts and their butt parts, and see, I still got it at 65. Why? Because as much as they tried to lie to themselves their entire lives, they understand the dynamic of men find visual things attractive, and they find women's bodies in particular visually stunning to where it motivates them to want to go talk to them, to want to protect them, to want to take them out, to want to pay for their lifestyle. And it's all well and good when women are benefiting from that as a result of men wanting their bodies. But if it's not, all of a sudden it's oh, patriarchy, how dare they, blah, blah, blah. And so again, what's this woman saying? In order to fight the patriarchy, you need to show your nude body. Guess what? We win again. And here's why, right? I need women to really get this, right? You're thinking, if I go on Instagram and show my body off, I'm empowering myself. If I go on OnlyFans and I show off my body, well, I'm in control of it. I'm determining how it gets seen, and therefore that's empowering. I have one question for you. Who owns all those platforms? The answer is men. So even when you think you're empowering yourself through nudity, men are profiting. You're making X amount of dollars on OnlyFans, right? Well, you're getting that, and then you have picture there's 5 women, right? Each of those 5 women are making, we'll say, $100,000 a month on OnlyFans, right? Well, they got to give a percentage of that cut to the people that created that platform in the first place. So from all 5 women collectively, they are making more than their money back, which means they are still profiting off your nudity. And yet you think you're giving it away because you're being empowered. All that does is it lets men continue to profit off you, win for us. And then also it lets guys out there be able to see your naked body. The one that originally should have been kept for either the people you were dating or for your husband specifically. Now you're giving it away for free. Also, by the way, you're also losing out because unfortunately a lot of OnlyFans creators and adult content creators find out later in life once they have kids that having that history of your body online makes it very rough go for their kids when they go to school and their little friends are finding all their mommy's nudity pictures, But again, hey, you go out there and be empowered and show your body off and try to convince men, don't look at it sexually. We're all going to just be here looking at you sure, why not? But hey, thanks for letting us look. Feminism helps us out again. So that's the third thing. The fourth way that feminism has tricked women into giving men what they want is this idea that being strong and independent is actually not only the right move, but it's going to make you happier. I got an article here that I found where a woman is it's from everydayfeminism.com, and the article is Why Society Shames Single Women and How to Celebrate the Single Life, right? And so I'll get down to the important part of this article where this woman says, what's wrong with this picture in terms of shaming women for being single and trying to convince them that they need to have a man and have a family. What's wrong with this picture? Aside from all the overt sexism, the idea that being single sucks is flat out wrong. If you've never enjoyed being single, I'm sorry. I think you may be doing it wrong and maybe bought into some of the patriarchal. Notice they keep going back to the patriarchy. I've done whole shows about how the patriarchy is actually a good thing. It was designed to make laws that protect women. It was designed to actually help women out and put them into better places. All the various things that are designed to give women a leg up, like scholarships and whatnot, were created by men. So the patriarchy has actually done a lot that feminists don't really seem to understand. But anyway, let's see. Because being single is awesome and really important and very healthy. It is a political statement. A refuge. Well, okay. It's a political statement that you're single at home every night. You're home single in your room, yeah, I'm showing all those people out there. Oh my God, this is great. You're not showing anybody. You're home alone by yourself in a cold bed. How are you making a political statement to anybody? You're going to go out there, look at me, I'm single. They're going to be okay. And then they're going to go off to their boyfriend or girlfriend, and you're going to be standing there I showed them. That doesn't add up. Anyway, let's see. It is a political statement, a refuge from sexism, and an opportunity to show that women can be self-sufficient. Boston marriages, anyone? I don't know what that is. She says, but it's so much more than that. It's also psychologically, emotionally, physically, and mentally Just plain good for you. Well, I'm going to stop you there because, again, at the age that I'm at, I know women that bought into that lie when they were younger, and now they're on all the things, and they're still out there constantly trying to date. Now, why would a woman that's happy being single still go out there and try to date? Like, those two things don't make sense. But you can't be on two different thought paths, right? You can't be saying, I'm going to be single, go me, but I'm going to go date, because then the universe doesn't know what to give you. You're saying to it, I want two different things. So the universe is going to be like, I guess I'll make you an unhappy dater then, because you don't seem to want to be single, but you also want to be single, but you want to date at the same time, but not commit. So maybe we'll give you some guys that won't ever commit to you. Like, I guess we'll make that work out somehow. Anyway, she then lists a few ways that being single is good for you. Let's look through these, right? Number one, you are more likely to maintain close friendships. You don't have your one person. Sometimes you find out you have a lot of people, such as your friends. Well, the only problem with that is that as women get older, they're going to find out their women friends, one by one, are going to be going away as they get men. So if you have like 5 women, right? And now you're down to like 4 of those women are married and you have the one person who's single, they're not going to completely push away their single friend, but they have family commitments. They have trips they're doing with their husband and their kids where this person can't come along. They're being invited to dinners and trips with other couples and their friend's not in a couple, so they're out. So you might still have a friend, but the closeness of that friendship starts to get really frayed because your other friends are now in relationships and you're not. I've seen it happen, so I know what I'm talking about. Let's see. She says, you can be as spontaneous as you want. Want to take a few weeks off to work and travel to South America? Do it, but you're doing it alone, by yourself. Want to turn your night at a friend's house into a full weekend? All right, unless that friend is also married, in which case you now have to reschedule that. Or her, even if she's divorced and has kids, the kids have stuff going on this weekend, so you're basically by yourself again. Want to move to a different city next month for a job opportunity? Enjoy. Yeah, you're moving there, but you have nobody to celebrate it with, and so you're still alone. And so as much as you can try to act like I'm still happy about that, I have found just, again, in my observation of women at this age, they're usually not as happy as they would have been celebrating that news with somebody that really truly care for them. Want to shave your head? Happening. Most guys don't like women with shaved heads like that, so you're probably going to be losing out even more from the dating market. So again, that debunks that myth. Number 3, you have more time. Think of all the time you spend with a partner when you're in a relationship. Now, take it back onto your schedule. Ta-da! I have found, though, that in my dating world, I found that when I get with a woman, I'll hear stories about how they wanted to go to a concert, they wanted to do a trip, they wanted to try this new thing, but they just didn't feel like doing it alone. And now that I'm in their lives, now they're willing to do all the things. Part of that's because they kind of want men to be able to guide them through these experiences to make sure that they're protected. So if something goes wrong, the guy's there to kind of help them out. And also it's just fun in general to share experiences with people versus trying to have to tell your solo experience to other people later on. So again, yeah, you have more time, but I find most women aren't actually using that time to do things. And even if they are, go back to the previous one, you're doing it alone, it typically is not that fun for you. Women typically tend to be communal, which means they want people around to experience things with. So if they're doing it solo, sorry, ladies, over time, you're probably not gonna like it. Number 4, you get to sleep alone. I digress. I mean, I'm in relationships where I don't typically like sleeping in the same bed with the person, but I'll sleep in the same area. I'll sleep in the same, general housing space. The point is that, people, when they're with somebody, want them to be around them when they're sleeping. So if you're solo, then sorry to say, you're not getting that experience. You can date. So she says this whole thing about being single is great, and here's why. And then she says, number 5, because you can date. What are we actually doing here? Again, are we trying to be single? Or are we trying to date? Because if you're trying to date, typically women, you're trying to date with the intent of being with somebody long term. But this goes back to the point of, because you're being told that you're strong and independent, you don't need a man. You can live the single life like all those women you see on those shows where they're single and they're seemingly happy and whatever, except on some of their shows, they're also crying at night and saying they wish they had a man. But that's not the point, is that you can be strong and independent and you don't need anybody. How do men win with this? Well, because we're hearing that narrative, it makes us think, oh, you know what? That's great. She wants to be the strong, independent boss babe. She doesn't need nobody. She just wants somebody to entertain her. I'll entertain. I'll come over and bang her brains out and we can have fun or whatever. But if she ever says that she wants to get married, I can just be like, oh, but wait, you want it to be strong and independent. And I think we should continue to be independent. And you know what? A woman that has very little options, especially as they get older, is going to acquiesce to that situation. Which means feminism has helped us guys out again by not having to commit, or in the event that, they commit to you and, suddenly he's not liking whatever, and just get divorced from you. Because it's like, hey, I mean, she's gonna be fine. Like, she was fine being independent. She doesn't need nobody to commit to long term. It is what it is. I'm out of here. So in that respect, men also win yet again. Thanks. And then the fifth way that feminism has tricked women into giving men everything they want is that they have taught women to be their own man and to not buy into stereotypical gender roles anymore. Now, you would think on some hand, there's a benefit to that. Like, you're thinking, okay, if I'm a woman, I don't buy into stereotypical gender roles. That means I'm not gonna have to be the one that's staying at home. I don't have to be overly emotional. I can make money like a guy does, all this other stuff, right? And some of the stuff that I talked about on this list. I can be more promiscuous. I can be nude if I want to, whatever, right? But you don't have to conform. You don't have to conform now to traditional gender roles that held women back, like having to be in the kitchen and having to stay at home and take care of kids and blah, blah, blah. Although, you know what's funny is that I have found that women that I know that went to school and got high degrees and have high-paying jobs, at the point where they meet a guy, they get married, and more importantly, they become pregnant, suddenly all the needs they had to be the strong, independent woman who was gonna do everything the man did goes out the window for being able to do traditional gender stuff. I had a friend that was a genius scientist. She went to school and got several degrees to be a scientist. Her dude was like in the army for a while, and then he went off and get construction work. At the point that she became pregnant, she was like, I'm staying home. She now has 4 kids, and her husband out there works while she gets to stay at home and raise the kids and take care of the house, and she is the happiest I've ever seen her been. Meanwhile, I have women that also went to my school that are now 40 plus, and they went the route of the corporate world, and they are unhappy as heck. They're happy in their work lives, that things are going well for the stuff they're doing at work, but I see them go on vacations solo. They're posting up pictures solo. They're having New Year's days and holidays solo, and they do not look happy. Then they'll actually go on Facebook or Instagram, I wish I could find somebody real. Why can't men just treat, I wish, blah, blah, blah. But you didn't want to be a stereotypical gender woman. You wanted to like go out there and be boss babe. And women lose out, unfortunately, because, you know, part of stereotypical gender roles was men would protect, they would lead, they would provide, they would allow for the woman to be comfortable by trusting in his masculinity to take care of the bigger things so she could focus on, I don't want to say the smaller things, but focus on the supplemental things that make things even more better for the relationship overall. But nowadays, women have been taught that that's not a good thing, which means men don't think we have to protect you or provide for you anymore. Because if we're not doing the traditional gender roles, I ain't got to pay for you anywhere. I ain't got to take you nowhere. I ain't got to look after you for anything like that. Because, hey, you're going to take me on regardless, so I ain't got to bring that to the table. And I can still get you because you're going to be desperate for somebody, and I'll show up and be the least best version of myself as possible in order to get you. So once again, this is an example of how feminism has benefited us. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you guys real quick is I found a lady on TikTok that is 28. And in this video clip, she's talking about how back in the day, she wanted to be the boss babe chick. She was doing stripping and all this other stuff. And well, I'll let her explain what her viewpoint of all that is now that she's 28 and still single.
I was a stripper. I did OnlyFans. I live in my truth. And I am ashamed at the behavior I've done because I am now 28 years old. I'm actually 28 years young on this earth. And I can say that I'm ashamed because of a lot of different reasons. I can sit here and I can talk to women and explain to younger girls coming up and things. And I thought it was cool. I thought this is what I wanted to do. I thought this is how I wanted to live. But all these females that you guys look up to in the industry, that the media pushes you, they're all miserable. They have no peace. They cry every night. They are not happy with themselves. They hate themselves. So much so, they get surgeries and they try to fit themselves to be in something they're not, and they're never going to fulfill it because they're not fulfilled on the inside.
So what is she really saying? Basically, feminism taught her a lie. They taught her if she was out there stripping, showing her body, being on OnlyFans, doing all these things, that it was going to bring her happiness, right? And yet, at the same time, she's saying that, like, unfortunately, while she thought it would make her happy, the reality is it did not. That it made her miserable and depressed, and there are so many other women out there with that. What feminism does to you ladies is it basically convinces you that the way you would just naturally be as a woman is actually wrong, and that it's actually oppressing, and that you need to, it's funny enough how they say, you know, hey, you doing all these things as a woman is oppressing, you need to act more like a guy. So even with feminism's attempt to try to make you feel as though the patriarchy is wrong, they say the way to combat that is to act like a guy. And that's not really what you're built for. You're built to do the female part of things, just like men are meant to do the male part of things, in order to cohesively bring two opposites to the forefront of a relationship to make it work. And here's my thing, guys, right? Is that, or ladies, is that nothing you guys do that is female leaning is like weak or not strong. You having kids is like the most feminine thing you can do. And it's like, that is the whole world. Like, you create the whole world in your bodies. You staying home to raise kids. You being able to use your brains to figure out how to make a house a home, or how to give ideas to the man you're with to be able to benefit the family overall when he goes out there and like pushes some ideas that you gave him. Like, all those things are actually net positives versus you as the woman having to go out there every day to a job and make decisions. And I'm not saying you can't make decisions, but I have found just working with women that analytically, I get less tired thinking analytically about things than women do. I take less breaks at a job than most women I know, because after like 2 or 3 hours, I gotta walk around, I need a break, oh my God, I gotta eat, because all that thinking stuff and all that like analyzing things, men are built to do that for a longer period of time than you all are. So I need you to stop looking at like everything that guys do as patriarchy, and everything that you all do as totally bad. It is not bad to not be a promiscuous woman. It's actually pretty great because you know who your baby daddy is and you don't have to worry about things like STDs and unwanted pregnancies. It's fine if you don't make as much as a guy. It's totally fine because some guy's gonna come along and wanna take care of you as a result. It's not bad if you wanna be less forefronting, I'll say, with your bodies and not showing it all over the place, because a modest woman that shows off her body solely to her man at home is a woman that's going to benefit greatly versus the negative consequences that are going to come later on as a result of that action. You being strong and independent, it's better to be with a guy that you can be dependent on, that's going to willingly take care of you and that wants to be a partner with you, than trying to do it all yourself. You're going to stress yourself out. And then you trying to not conform to stereotypical gender roles, newsflash, most of you all are going to be miserable if you try to act like a guy. So consider all that stuff, because if you don't, hey, no problems over here. We're going to be benefiting greatly from you like falling for all these lies. Because again, if you're going to be more promiscuous with men and pay for us to do stuff and let us see you nude and not have to make us commit to you to keep you and allow us to not have to do things that men are set in place to do, like protect you and provide for you, then hey, we win again. Thank you, feminism. Anyway, that's all I got for today's show. Let me know if you agree or disagree with in the comments about anything that I said on the show. I would love to greatly hear it and appreciate it, all right? Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and for you guys that may have watched this, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com to learn how to date as your authentic introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. You can go there now and check out my brand new webinar, 3 nice guy dating patterns that turn women off and what to do instead. That's all I got. I'm Harry Wilmington. I will catch you guys on the next episode of Harry Dating Conversations. I'm out. Peace.